UFC 300 is finally here, and I cannot wait to break down and go through these fights with you. I've been anticipating for this card for so long. The greatest UFC card of all time. This beats UFC 100, 200, 194, 280, 239, all these big UFC cards. UFC 300 is by far the best and biggest UFC fights we've ever seen, right? There's like 11 or 12 current or former UFC champions. Like, this card is huge, and I will go to my grave with anybody saying that this is the best card they've could have made out of the entire UFC history, right? I know a lot of people were upset with the main event originally, and we were anticipating for something much bigger, like Conor McGregor coming back. But the fact that Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill are headlining this, you can't be upset. This is still a huge fight. There's a lot of questions that go into that main event, and when we get to that, we have a lot to talk about. But overall, UFC 300 is going to be a success. It doesn't matter what happens. Obviously, if the main event ends in a DQ, that would be crazy. But this is an amazing card. I can't wait to talk about it. We have so much to get into. So without further ado, please give this video a like. Comment who you think will win. How the fights will play out. If you think I'm right, if you think I'm wrong. We're trying to build a community. Double Move MMA will be a future community program where we're just here to have fun. We're just here to talk about fights, man. And that's all what we're trying to do, right? And subscribe for more content like this. Now let's get into it. Now with the first fight on the prelims, on this card, which is crazy. Dude, we have so much to talk about. But for this fight being the first fight on the card is insane. Deiveson Figueiredo, former flyweight champion, taking on Cody Garbrandt, former bantamweight champion. This is a very fun fight. Deiveson Figueiredo, this is his second fight at bantamweight. His first fight, he beat Rob Font, which, that was a real test. Rob Font is no joke at bantamweight, right? And Deiveson Figueiredo went in there with the idea that like size is going to play a part into it, and that he won't be able to compete with these bantamweights because he's a flyweight fighter, even though he's a naturally, it seems like he's a big bantamweight, like he's a natural bantamweight. There was a lot of questions. He went in there, beat Rob Font, destruct him, broke him down. He made the fight towards his fight. Good boxing, good striking, good takedown defense. I think Deiveson Figueiredo is going to beat Cody Garbrandt in this fight. Deiveson Figueiredo, he's shown that he can make fighters fight their fight. With the Marino fights, the Rob Font fight, now this Cody Garbrandt fight, like he's leveling up where he's just showing that he's in his realm right now, right? This is his time. I like Figueiredo. I think he has good striking. I think the one thing you do need to be cautious of on Cody Garbrandt is his boxing, his power. But Cody has shown in his previous fights that he doesn't have that good of a chin. And sometimes Cody, if he isn't brawling out, he can't really like step in and pick apart a fighter and like take their weakness out and beat them that way, right? And I think the way to beat Deiveson Figueiredo is you have to be on him, you have to overload him, and you have to consume him pretty much with your volume. And I don't know if Cody's going to be able to do that because Deiveson Figueiredo is really good at reach. He's really good at maintaining distance, and his takedowns and his submission game is insane. So I don't know if Cody's really going to be trying to push the fight on Deiveson Figueiredo, but that's how I think the fight will play out. Going into the next fight, Bobby Green and Jim Miller. This is an interesting fight. This I actually thought was going to be the opening fight on UFC 300. Jim Miller fought on UFC 100, 200, now on 300, riding a 2-fight win streak. He's put together some good wins. Jim Miller, he's overall a tough fighter. He's pretty good, right? He's old though. And the question with Jim Miller, it's going to be, can he beat Bobby Green, who's ranked 15th right now in the lightweight division, and kind of make a resurrection, make a statement into this lightweight division that he's here? And I don't know if he will, right? But Bobby Green is coming off that brutal knockout loss to Jalen Turner, where we all thought Bobby Green was dead or unalive. I think this could be the fight for Jim Miller. Jim Miller is a plus 170 underdog taking on a minus 205 favorite Bobby Green. Bobby Green, he has pretty good takedown defense, pretty good grappling, but it's his boxing. That's what makes him good. He has that power. He knocked out Grant Dawson. Like, Bobby Green has some hands, but when you watch Bobby Green and Jalen Turner, Jalen Turner is a freak. and we'll talk about him in a minute, but Jalen Turner has really long reach. So it was hard for Bobby Green to get into range and box up Jalen Turner. Even though he did land some good shots, he got beat up with that reach and that distance management. So if Jim Miller can somehow kind of pick apart Bobby Green, play the long game, and then shoot for takedowns and look in the grappling department, he can definitely do it. Jim Miller has a 44% takedown accuracy and a 48% takedown defense. Bobby Green, on the other hand, has a 37% takedown accuracy and a 74% takedown defense. So, Jim Miller might not be able to take Bobby Green down, but I think that is the way to win. I think, Jim Miller is overall a pretty good fighter. He's tough. That's what he's really known for, is being a tough brawler. But his grappling is pretty good. I would say Jim Miller beats Bobby Green. I don't know if Bobby Green's going to come back from that Jalen Turner fight the same. I mean, he got like 20 shots on his head unnecessary, right? I like Bobby Green. I just don't know if Bobby Green, to me, always, when he needs to win, he loses, except for the Grant Dawson win. I don't know if Bobby Green's going to be in this next step light. He's a win-loss fighter. Same with Jim Miller. Jim Miller's a little bit older, but I'm going to go with Jim Miller. I'm trusting this old man. I think if he can pick apart Bobby Green and threaten the grappling and try and look for some submissions, he'll win the fight. Going into the next fight, God, this fight's going to be so boring, I think. Jessica Andrade taking on Marina Rodriguez. Marina Rodriguez, she's a good fighter. She's a good point fighter. She showed that her distance management and her power is pretty good. If you go back and watch that Amanda Ribas fight, Marina Rodriguez knocked out Amanda Ribas twice in one fight because Herb Dean doesn't know when to stop a fight, apparently. Taking on Jessica Andrade, who at one point, Jessica Andrade was known for her insane power, and she almost had like that scary psychological part of her, kind of like how Khamzat does, where a lot of people are more scared of the mindset, the mental of Khamzat than they are of the fighter, right? Or of the skills. Jessica Andrade, it seemed at one point she was a scary fighter who had insane power, and it was like the psychological mindset behind her where she was just looking to brawl and kill you. And I think a lot of fighters lost to Jessica Andrade because of that reason. But when it comes to like technical skill, I just don't think Jessica Andrade is going to be able to beat Marina Rodriguez because of her skills. It will have to be because of a dirty fight, and that's why I'm picking Marina Rodriguez to win. Marina Rodriguez is really good at distance management, keeping the range, and being able to just like pick you apart with strikes. Jessica Andrade, her as a striker, she has good power, but like her striking is not that good. She's not fluid. If you go back and watch the Erin Blanchfield fight, she kind of seemed a little loosey-goosey, and even with the Mackenzie Dern fight, where Mackenzie Dern's striking fucking is terrible. Her striking is terrible. How is she a top 5 strawweight fighter and her striking is still terrible, where when she's backing up, she's not throwing anything, she's not pivoting off that foot, she's not rolling, she's just getting hit with shots. God, Mackenzie Dern pissed me off. So Jessica Andrade, she has power, and that's the only reason why she really wins, and she's threatening, she's strong, but her grappling is terrible, her takedown defense isn't that good, and, I think Marina Rodriguez will probably pick apart Jessica Andrade, and probably beat her in a unanimous decision win. That's what I'm picking. I don't think Jessica Andrade is really that good. She has the power, but skill for skill, her striking is not what Marina Rodriguez is. Finally, the last fight on the early prelims. This is going to be a great fight. Jalen Turner, the freaking Spider-Man, the tarantula, the freak of all freaks, 6'3", 77-inch reach, taking on Renato Moicano. This is a fun fight because Renato Moicano, he's a pretty good striker. His grappling is actually really good, but he's a tough fighter that kind of just stays in your face. If you go back and watch the Renato Moicano and RDA fight, Renato Moicano wasn't giving up. He was just in the face, landing good shots. He just didn't have like the overall finishing skills to really put it on someone and threaten anything. And I think that's where he could lose this fight. Jalen Turner, on the feet, Jalen Turner, in my eyes, is one of the best lightweight strikers there is. He keeps distance really well. He can land enough strikes where he's not like completely gassed and he's looking for like a sprawl or whatever, or defend the takedown or clinch, and he's still able to land enough power shots where he's not going to necessarily leave himself open up for too long, right? Because if you throw overhand right or a hook or uppercut, there's always chances or times where you're leaving something to give something, right? Jalen Turner's really good at landing big power shots without opening himself up too much. The problem with Jalen Turner is his wrestling, his takedown defense. It's not that great. If you look at his takedown defense, the 75% takedown defense, but also the people that he has been fighting, the wrestlers. If you go back and watch the Garbrandt fight, great at takedowns, but can't really finish anything on the ground. Jalen Turner, on the feet, Jalen Turner is great. I think he'll hit a lot of good shots on Renato Moicano, but I think if Renato Moicano can get in the grappling, get in the clinch with Jalen Turner, make it a dirty fight, I think he can win this. And that's how Dan Hooker beat Jalen Turner. He was tough. He got in his face, went in the clinch moments, grappled with him, and won the fight like that. That's how you beat Jalen Turner. You can't just strike with Jalen Turner or he's going to knock you out. And if you just try and wrestle Jalen Turner the entire time, he's going to land a lot of good shots on you. So you have to grab a hold of him and really threaten him on the ground, right? So you got to do everything. You can't do one or the other. I think Renato Moicano, if he does what Dan Hooker did, get in his face, get in the clinch game, land big shots, land knees, threaten the takedown, threaten submissions, you can beat Jalen Turner. But you also got to be tough because Dan Hooker got beat up by Jalen Turner and won. So Renato Moicano, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. But I'm picking Jalen Turner. I think Jalen Turner outpoints Renato Moicano, and I think he actually finishes Renato Moicano because I don't know if Renato Moicano can stand in the face of Jalen Turner for that long. For the first fight on the prelims, next fight, Sodiq Yusuff, ranked 13th in the featherweight division, taking on Diego Lopes. This is a fun fight. Sodiq Yusuff, all around, great fighter, great brawler. He has good wrestling, good striking, pretty good clinch game too. Like his Muay Thai, like his elbows and knees are actually really, really good. Like he's a good fighter. But he's taking on this guy, this surging dude who is like on a new level, right? Diego Lopes being talked about a lot. Came up short notice against Movsar Evloev, fought him on short notice, but literally did everything he could to win that fight on a 6-day notice. And I think if that happened to be on a longer fight week, if he had more time to prepare for that fight, I think Diego Lopes could have beaten Movsar Evloev. Diego Lopes, he's not a great striker, but he stays in your face long enough where the grappling becomes a concern, and his power shots are a little overwhelming and unexpected. So, Diego Lopes can be nothing. He might not look like much, but he has a lot of fire with him, right? He has good power, but it's his grappling. He is Alexa Grasso's jiu-jitsu coach. When he's on the ground, it's constant offense. Like, if he's on the ground on his back, if he pulled guard, elbows, he's looking for overhands, he's looking to throw a submission on you, triangle, armbar. When he's in the clinch game, he's constantly throwing knees, elbows. When he's on the feet, he's looking to get a hold of you. Like, he's a constant fire. I like Diego Lopes. He's riding a really good wave right now. Like, he looks promising. So I'm picking Diego Lopes. I think, he might catch Sodiq Yusuff. Sodiq Yusuff is a really good fighter, but it seems like in his transitions, when he's in the clinch moment, he seems like he's off balance a lot, and I don't know if Sodiq Yusuff has a good transition from getting welled on in the striking, then put on his back, He's a good fighter, though. He's tough all around. He's pretty good. And it's a great test for Diego Lopes because Sodiq Yusuff is good. Do not overlook Sodiq Yusuff. Good fighter, but I'm picking Diego Lopes. I think the overwhelming volume of Diego Lopes and the grappling threat, especially of the submissions on the ground, is going to be a problem because if you're Sodiq Yusuff, you don't want to be standing over Diego Lopes, landing big shots, and then he catches you in something, right? So you got to be concerned. I think this is going to be a point fight. I think Sodiq Yusuff is going to try and point fight Diego Lopes, stay out of range, and win that way. But I'm picking Diego Lopes. He's riding a good wave right now. Next fight. God, I hate this freaking fight. I hate this fight because there's so many questions to it. So you got Holly Holm, who is 190 years old. Her best win is Ronda Rousey, taking on Kayla Harrison, who is a natural, like lean as can be, 155er, dropping down to 135 pounds, taking on Holly Holm. Holly Holm, good striker, but it seems like Holly Holm gets in situations where you're kind of confused on what she's doing and why she's doing it. Holly Holm should beat the shit out of fighters that like shouldn't be anything, but yet she makes all of her opponents look amazing against her. And it seems like Holly Holm gets stuck in these weird positions where you're like, how did you get there? You're a kickboxer. How did you get in this position? For instance, Holly Holm and Caitlin Vieira. Ketlen Vieira almost submitted Holm with a standing triangle. Why are you in the clinch, landing knees and elbows, and then letting Ketlen Vieira almost sink a a triangle on you, a standing triangle on you, right? Like, why are you not keeping distance? Why are you not leg kicking the shit out of this person? So it seems like Holm, when she's in the clinch game or in any type of grappling situation, she like doesn't know what to do almost. Or when she does do it, she does it terribly. But Kayla Harrison, a good fighter, coming over from PFL, right? Multiple time champion, crazy in judo, great submission game, but her striking and the way she can't ever always finish a submission is a little concerning. Kayla Harrison is an amazing fighter, but she had that weird fight with Aspen Ladd where Aspen Ladd was landing some good shots on Kayla Harrison on the feet. Like, it kind of seemed like Kayla Harrison could have lost to Aspen Ladd, God forbid, if Aspen Ladd had some takedown defense. I think Kayla Harrison will beat Holly Holm. Holly Holm is 42 years old. She's older. Her striking is good, and Holly Holm could maybe knock out Kayla Harrison depending on the weight cut. If the weight cut is terrible for Kayla Harrison, and Kayla Harrison drops to 135 pounds and looks terrible, and she's not able to get much water back into her at the start of the fight, she can get knocked out easily by Holly Holm, right? You get knocked out easy if you don't have much water in your brain, right? And Holly Holm could do it, but I doubt it. She's 42 years old, and Holly Holm hasn't knocked out someone in so long, so I just don't see it happening. But I'm picking Kayla Harrison to win. The biggest concern is her weight cut and her striking against Holly Holm. Is she going to bum rush Holly Holm, look for the takedown early, and try and submit her? Because if she does do that, she'll beat Holly Holm. But if Kayla Harrison plays this like point game with Holly Holm and lets Holly Holm have distance and land leg kicks and keep the jab away from her, I think it's going to be hard for Kayla Harrison to beat Holly Holm because Kayla Harrison, at 135 pounds, chasing someone who is an amazing kickboxer, it's not a good combination. Going into the next fight, which this fight should be on the main card over Bo Nickal and Cody Brundage, but whatever. Calvin Kattar, featherweight fighter, featherweight boxer, the man who almost beat the beat, taking on former bantamweight champion, who a lot of people said is the GOAT. I'm not saying he is, but a lot of people say he is. And the people who say, who's saying Aljamain Sterling is the GOAT? John Anik, Joe Rogan. These famous people are saying Aljamain Sterling is the greatest bantamweight fighter of all time. So I'm not saying that they are. Anyway, he's fighting Calvin Kattar on the early prelims. This fight's actually interesting. Aljamain Sterling's first fight in featherweight. Amazing grappling. He's a big bantamweight, and now he's going to featherweight. So hopefully he can still keep some of that size and still, look a little overwhelming to his opponents. But he's fighting Calvin Kattar, a pure boxer. I think Aljamain Sterling beats Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar, if you look at his previous fights, if you look at the Josh Emmett fight, Calvin Kattar leaves his legs open a lot. He's a high stance boxer. Even if you look at the Max Holloway fight, obviously Max Holloway wasn't going to go for a takedown against Calvin Kattar, but Calvin Kattar keeps his hands up high. He's a pure boxer. His boxing is amazing. A great jab. Him and Rob Font have the best 1-2 combinations out of all UFC fighters. Calvin Kattar and Rob Font. It's a pure boxing style, and I think that is going to be the reason why Aljamain Sterling beats Calvin Kattar. Aljamain Sterling, great wrestler, great submission game. He's literally a human backpack. I think, if Calvin Kattar can keep Aljamain Sterling out of range with leg kicks, it might help or threaten the knee up the middle, kind of like how Sean O'Malley did or Marlon Moraes. But Calvin Kattar, if he's on his front foot and he's marching down Aljamain Sterling will take him down, take his back, and then just land a lot of back shots on his face. So I'm picking Aljamain Sterling to beat Calvin Kattar. Interesting fight. The thing to look out for in this fight, though, is to see if Aljamain Sterling, if his striking has gotten better, where when he's getting into someone's close range and to their distance, that he isn't getting killed with the jab, right? If Aljamain Sterling isn't getting killed with the jab, and if he can get into the close quarters and grab onto Calvin Kattar without getting killed, he'll win this fight. But the thing to look out for is to see if the jab kills Aljamain Sterling, because if it does, Aljamain might be, trying to look for a lot of single legs and running Calvin Kattar into the fence to get the takedown rather than a single leg or a double leg in the middle of the cage. The prelims main event. Yuri Procházka, former light heavyweight champion, taking on Alexander Rakić. This is a very fun fight. This fight should have happened, years earlier. Yuri Procházka, this wildfire fireball, who I think is the light heavyweight version of Tony Ferguson. Look at Yuri Procházka and tell me this man isn't this man, right? Come on. They're both lunatics. That's a psycho right there, and that's a psycho right there. And guess what? At one point, Tony Ferguson had an 11-fight win streak and was on a crazy roll. Then got his ass beat by Justin Gaethje, and then, went on that decline. We all know the story of Tony Ferguson. But Yuri Procházka, he is the light heavyweight version of Tony Ferguson, wild fighter. Yuri is the only fighter I've ever seen where he's leaning down. He's leaning down like this, right? He's leaning down, and then he fucking throws an overhand right. And as he throws the overhand right, he throws another overhand right with his left hand. Who does that? He's also the only person that I know that will stand there with his eyes, with his head. He's looking down at you, and his hands are low, and he'll throw the one. He'll step and throw the two. It's like he's the wildest fighter I've ever seen. Yuri Procházka, his striking, I don't know who his striking head coach is, but he's got to be he's got to be related to Tony Ferguson somehow. But Yuri Procházka taking on Alexander Rakić. I like Yuri in this fight. The question is going to be his takedown defense, his wrestling. Yuri did submit Glover Teixeira and had pretty good takedown defense in that fight. But Alexander Rakić, he's not really a submission guy. He's more of he's kind of like Garbrandt, where he's striking with you to get into the distance. And then he's going to look for simple leg kicks or even short combinations, like a 1-2-3 to get a hold of your back and then take you down and, pretty much ground and pound. I like Yuri Procházka in this fight. Besides that Alex Pereira fight, Yuri Procházka was on a roll, beating the shit out of Ozdemir, Dominic Reyes, Glover Teixeira. Yuri Procházka is still that deadly guy, and then got knocked out by Alex Pereira, who in my eyes, he's got to be the best light heavyweight right now, right? He's got to be over Magomed and Ankalaev, got to be over Jamal Hill. So I think Yuri Procházka, he's going to surprise Alexander Rakić, and I do think if Alexander Rakić leaps for a lot of takedowns and tries to get into the close quarters with Yuri Procházka, we might see a highlight knockout reel, like a spinning elbow or a flying knee or something like that, because Yuri Procházka is this dude. He is insane. His distance management, being able to cover one side to the other and throw something sporadic is insane. He just throws wild shit. So you have to be careful with Yuri Procházka. If you're Alexander Rakić, you want to play the point game. You want to stay out of the reach of Yuri Procházka. Don't let him work, because the moment Yuri's in you, he's throwing that 1-2, the spinning elbow, or the 1-2 and the flying knee. It's not good. But I think Yuri Procházka knocks out Alexander Rakić with something insane. Besides that Alex Pereira fight, Yuri Procházka was that guy. So I'm riding with him, the number 2 light heavyweight, beating Rakić. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for. The main card of UFC 300. God! I'm so ready, man. I'm so ready. Opening the card, which this is ridiculous. Proud sponsored by Michelob Ultra. Shout out. First fight on the main card. Now, I've dealt with my frustrations in poor ways with alcoholism and, Mary Jane. But Bo Nickal should not be on the opening fight on the main card. I'm going to leave it to that. If you disagree with me, go to my Bo Nickal video on YouTube that says Bo Nickal has Dana White privilege or something like that. I don't know. Go to YouTube and check out the Bo Nickal video. I go on a 10-minute rant basically on why Bo Nickal shouldn't be the opening fight. So I'm going to leave all of that to that video, and you comment on that video what you think. Bo Nickal taking on Cody Brundage. Not only is this fight absurd, right? Bo Nickal, who's a minus 1,300 favorite, taking on a plus 800. This is the opening fight on the main card. I get the UFC is we're going to promote this guy. He's the next biggest star. He's the next, champion. A minus 1,300 opening the card. Come on. Bo Nickal, great wrestler. We all know his story. Penn State champion. If he grabs a hold of you, he's killing you. But everybody right now is talking about his striking. Oh, Bo Nickal striking. Bo Nickal striking. Yeah, his striking looks good because he's fighting cans. Okay, I get it. He's only had 5 professional fights, right? So, like, why would we, give him Hamzat right now? But everybody talks to him. Everybody talks about about Bo Nickal. Like, oh, he can beat Hamzat. If he could beat Hamzat, he would be fighting Hamzat. There's a reason why he's not, because he would get killed. Brendan Allen, who just beat Chris Curtis, would beat the shit out of Bo Nickal. Like, come on, let's speak in reality, right? And I'll put money on that fight. If Bo Nickal fights Brendan Allen within a year, I put money on it. Brendan Allen beats the shit out of Bo Nickal. But Bo Nickal, everybody's talking about striking. He's going to dominate Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage, a summary of him, he's a can. He wins some, lose some. He's a tough fighter, but that's all he is. His striking is garbage. His wrestling defense is garbage. Like, he's not that great of a fighter. Oh, look at his significant strikes per minute. He lands 1.8 significant strikes a minute. If y'all didn't know, there's 5 minutes in a round. So he's landing 1 significant strike a minute. And he absorbs 2.51 significant strikes per minute. Bo Nickal's going to beat Cody Brundage. He's going to piece him up on the feet. Bo Nickal's striking, all, jokes aside, his striking has gotten better, but it's only because of the threat of the grappling, of the wrestling. So a lot of people don't want to stand too long in front of Bo Nickal because they think, oh my God, I'm going to get taken down. And so they move like Val Woodburn. They're moving, trying to get into range, trying to get out of range, not trying to get taken down. And then they get hit with an overhand right and get knocked out. So if Cody Brundage, as he should be scared of the grappling, he will just get knocked out on the feet because Bo Nickal will expose every hole in your striking when you're worried about the grappling. His feint works pretty good. And, Bo Nickal will be a champion one day, but the fact that he is the opening, I like Bo Nickal, but he's the opening fight on the main card. Come on. He's going to piece up Cody Brundage. He'll probably knock him out in the first round. I will say, for Bo Nickal only having an average fight time of 1:22 seconds, he does look impressive. That's not much time to, for us to really know if Bo Nickal's tough or if he can endure a lot of pain or if he can go through adversity. But out of 1:22 seconds average fight time, we've seen he looks good. He's a promising guy. I got Bo Nickal knocking out Cody Brundage. Now the real men fighting is coming up next. Charles Oliveira taking on Arman Tsarukyan. Good. I'm so ready for this fight. I love this fight. Charles Oliveira. This is what's crazy about UFC 300. Every single fight on this card could be a main event. 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 Not a main event, but UFC put on Amanda Hebus and Rose, so it could be. Charles Oliveira taking on Arman Tsarukyan. Charles Oliveira, we all know him, the baddest lightweight out there, man. And if Islam Makhachev wasn't so good, Charles Oliveira would still be champion. But Charles Oliveira, great fighter, coming off that great knockout win against Beneil Dariush. Was supposed to fight Islam. He couldn't because of the cut over his eye. So now he's fighting Arman Tsarukyan, who in my eyes, Arman, I made a video a long time ago, about 2 years ago, about future champions. And my 5 future champions were Arman Tsarukyan, Ilia Topuria, champion, Sean O'Malley, Shavkat, and Hamzat. Those were the 5 fighters I mentioned in the champions one day. And Arman Tsarukyan is one of those guys because he's 27 years old. He has shown that his skills do develop and he gets better. His grappling is amazing. And if you go back to his first fight ever in the UFC, it was against Islam Makhachev, which was a short notice fight. Many people don't know that, but Arman Tsarukyan took the fight against Islam Makhachev on short notice. Islam Makhachev was supposed to fight the guy Nakarist Hapist or whatever. I can't remember. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He pulled out. Arman Tsarukyan stepped in, fought Islam Makhachev on short notice. He was 22 years old. Fought on short notice, gave him a good fight, but he lost. Since then, Arman has fought some great fighters. Arman has knocked out Beneil Dariush, Damir Usmagulov, tons of fighters. He's beaten great fighters Oh, Joaquim Silva. That's right. Joe Alvarez. Matt Frevola. Arman Tsarukyan is that guy. He's beaten some really good fighters. But Charles Oliveira just like has these crazy skills that he just traps people in and beats them. If you go back and look at the Dustin Poirier fight, exchanges against Dustin Poirier in the first round, second round gets his back, grabs his glove the entire time, beats him, and the third round chokes him out. But in that first round, he was getting beat up. Against Justin Gaethje, got dropped in the first round multiple times, came back, submitted Justin Gaethje. Fights Michael Chandler. In the first round, gets beaten up, dropped 2, comes back in the second round, knocks out Michael Chandler. Fights Beneil Dariush. Gets beaten up a little bit on the feet, goes to the ground, nothing really happens. Stand up on the feet, Charles Oliveira knocks out Beneil Dariush. Charles Oliveira, the reason why he's so good and why I am picking Charles Oliveira to beat Arman Tsarukyan as the underdog at a plus 170 is because Charles has this ability to find nothing out of something. And he's so tough, and he's always looking for a finish. Charles Oliveira, if you ever watch him fight, the first thing he does, he comes out and he does a flying knee just to see what your reaction is. And then when you're exchanging, he's going to throw that 1-2. Okay, you're going this way. I'm going to throw that hook. Throw the hook. Oh, the knee. The elbow's there. If you're on the ground with Charles Oliveira, he's throwing elbows. He's constantly switching transitions. He's constantly switching moves. He's on your back to mount, to side control, to north-south. Like, he's constantly moving, looking for a finish. And I think Arman Tsarukyan, he's really good. And, Arman doesn't leave a lot of openings, right? This is a high-level fight. This is going to be probably the best fight of UFC 300. This one or Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje, because this fight, you have 2 black belts that are rolling with each other, and it doesn't take a big miss to capitalize on that, right? Whoever makes the first mistake will probably lose this fight. But the reason why I'm picking Charles Oliveira is because if he does make a mistake, he has the greatest chance on winning from that mistake. If Arman Tsarukyan gives him an arm or is on the feet too long, Arman can get knocked out by Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira has dropped tons of people, knocked out tough fighters. Like, he has the power, and his grappling is there. But I believe if Arman, causes a mistake, let's say on the ground he doesn't transition right or whatever, Charles Oliveira can capitalize on that, and I think that's why he'll win. And if you go back and look at Arman and Garbrandt, Garbrandt, took down Arman a lot, but he couldn't really control anything. He couldn't really look for a submission. And it's also how Garbrandt fights. He's not a submission artist like Charles Oliveira, where he'll beat you up while trying to submit you. Gamrot's more like, let's get the position. Let's make sure, you're down here for a long time. I'll land a lot of good shots. Let me change this position, and then I'll advance. Charles Oliveira will go straight from standing up to a fucking triangle in seconds, right? So I'm picking Charles Oliveira to beat Arman Tsarukyan. Charles Oliveira, he got taken down very easily, very fast against Islam Makhachev and got choked out. And, I think maybe there was a lot of pressure on Charles Oliveira at that time. He came back and knocked out Beneil Dariush. I think Charles Oliveira, he has that grit. He has that experience. He's very tough. And I think that's what will give him the win over Arman Tsarukyan. Without a doubt, Arman Tsarukyan is that guy. He's tough. But I'm picking Charles Oliveira to beat Arman. Now, with this next fight, this is the most insane fight, right? Justin Gaethje taking on Max Holloway. Now, this fight, there's a lot of questions about this fight. So you got Max Holloway, who's a featherweight fighter, going up to lightweight. He's on a 2-fight win streak right now in the featherweight division. Justin Gaethje on a 2-fight win streak too. Justin Gaethje's coming off a knockout win against Dustin Poirier, and the beautiful win against Rafael Fiziev, where he came back in that third round and really showed why Justin Gaethje is Justin Gaethje. This is a fun, questionable fight because, when Max Holloway fought Dustin Poirier, it was the size and power difference in what caused him to lose, right? Max Holloway landed a ton of strikes against Dustin Poirier, but nothing was threatening where he could get Dustin Poirier off of him. He couldn't drop Dustin Poirier. He couldn't really, threaten him with anything where Dustin Poirier had to be concerned of Max Holloway, right? And I think that's going to be the same problem we're going to see with Justin Gaethje. I think Max Holloway is a good fighter, but Justin Gaethje has that power and the leg kicks to really thump Max Holloway. Max Holloway's been in a ton of fights, and Justin Gaethje is also a pretty big lightweight. I don't think Max Holloway is going to be able to put enough pressure on Justin Gaethje in order to beat him, right? Maybe he can if he goes to the grappling, right? We all know Justin Gaethje doesn't have that great of jiu-jitsu, so maybe Max Holloway wins by taking down Justin Gaethje and submitting him, right? It's unlikely, but it could happen. I think Justin Gaethje leg kicks the shit out of Max Holloway. I think he's going to have a problem with the power. Justin Gaethje is really good at throwing haymakers, and he will stand in front of you. If you go back and watch the Michael Chandler Justin Gaethje fight, the Rafael Fiziev Justin Gaethje fight, the Justin Gaethje Dustin Poirier last win where he knocked him out, even in the first fight, he's brawling with these fighters, and they just aren't the same, right? They break down each round. Like when you're fighting Justin Gaethje, you're breaking down each round. Like you're falling apart, right? And it's a little bit different with Dustin Poirier. You know, Dustin Poirier will go to war 5 rounds with these fighters, and they're not necessarily, like, broken. He just kind of, like, outclassed them a little bit more. But if you go back and watch Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje broke down Tony Ferguson, broken apart. You know, 5 rounds is a long time to be standing there with Justin Gaethje. I think Justin Gaethje not only beats Max Holloway, but I think he knocks him out. I don't know if Max Holloway's chin is going to hold up in the lightweight division, especially someone like Justin Gaethje, where Justin Gaethje throwing those leg kicks, blap, 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 overhand right, and then he just lands these big power shots where it's like, dude, you can't stand there. Justin Gaethje has good boxing, and training with Trevor Whitman, like, he is deadly. He will expose you, and I think Justin Gaethje, he finds Max Holloway's chin. I think Max Holloway with the leg kicks it's going to be a problem, and I think Max Holloway will get knocked out by Justin Gaethje. That's my prediction. Now to the co-main event. Now, this fight is a little bit of a downsider because we all thought we were going to get Zhang Weili, Alexa Grasso, and that should have been the fight. That would have been a great super fight for the co-main event, but we're getting Zhang Weili and Yan Xiaonan. Both fighters Yan Xiaonan is an identical fighter to Zhang Weili. Great fighter. You know, she fights somewhat the same, good striking, good grappling. She's tough, but Zhang Weili has just shown that she's just different. The fight with Joanna, with Rose, Carla Esparza, Zhang Weili just shows like there's you know, levels to this game. I think Zhang Weili knocks out Yan Xiaonan. Yan Xiaonan is actually a pretty good boxer. She lands a good amount of significant strikes a minute, 5.55 significant strikes a minute, and absorbs 3.56. Zhang Weili, though, lands 5.94 significant strikes a minute and absorbs 3.44. I think Zhang Weili outboxes Yan Xiaonan. I do think the grappling will be there for Yan Xiaonan if she needs to use it. Her grappling is actually pretty good. 66% takedown accuracy and a 70% takedown defense. But Zhang Weili, overall, great fighter. I think Zhang Weili pieces up Yan Xiaonan. I think she pieces up her on the feet, and then will probably, you know, look for the grappling to kind of like, you know, drag out the fight a little bit, because Yan Xiaonan is a tough fighter, and you got to break her down in order to beat her. I think Zhang Weili, though, beats Yan Xiaonan. I think it'll be a decision win. I think you'll see Zhang Weili piece up Yan Xiaonan on the feet a lot. Yan Xiaonan, she's a good boxer, but she's not good at range. Zhang Weili, she's pretty much good everywhere. She's good in the boxing. She has good range. She has good leg kicks. She can close the distance really well with her kicks and her knees. I think that's what you'll see. I think you'll see Zhang Weili beat Yan Xiaonan in a decision fight. Now, for the main event, the moment we've all been waiting for, even though I think Charles Oliveira and Arman and Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje might be bigger fights than the main event, do not overlook this fight. Alex Pereira, the king of all kings, the man you would call daddy. If Alex Pereira was in your house, you would say, "Daddy, can I have some water?" That's what you would say. Alex Pereira is the king of all kings. This dude who like just has a menacing left hook power. Like the dude who has the best kickboxing in the UFC. He's on this wave, just this different wave. And honestly, if he beats Jamal Hill and wants to look for another title defense, he can and he could do it. But he could also go up to heavyweight and surprise a lot of people and become a 3-time champion in the UFC. Alex Pereira, champion, a minus 155 favorite, taking on Jamal Hill. You know, Jamal Hill's coming back from that Achilles injury. And, you know, I really thought I would have said this fight would have been closer if Jamal Hill wasn't coming off that injury so soon. It's been 8 months since that Achilles injury. I think Alex Pereira pieces up Jamal Hill. I think the leg kicks are going to be a big factor. And I think, Alex Pereira, depending on if he can destabilize Jamal Hill for a good bit, prevent his movement, he will knock him out. We all know Alex Pereira has the knockout power. He has the leg kicks. Like, he can knock somebody out. The question is going to be, is Jamal Hill tough enough to fight through the Achilles injury if, it gets re-injured or whatever, and grapple or, somehow get into Alex Pereira's range and take him down, right? Alex Pereira, he has gotten better in the defense, grappling defense part. He's 70% takedown defense. But Jamal Hill is different. I will have to be honest. Jamal Hill is a great fighter, great boxer. I made a breakdown video of why I think Alex Pereira will knock out Jamal Hill, and it's because Jamal Hill, when he fights, he's a boxer, a more traditional stance boxer where he's leaning heavy on that front foot. And I think if you are fighting Alex Pereira, you can't be a single target. You can't just be in one place and think you're going to beat up Alex Pereira. You have to have good movement. You have to have good distance management. You have to have leg kicks. You have to have pretty good power to keep him off of you. If not, you're going to get beat. If you go back and watch Alex Pereira and Izzy, how did Izzy knock out Alex Pereira? They get in this close quarter distance. Alex Pereira thinks he hurts Izzy, which he probably did, and hit him with a counter overhand right and dropped Alex Pereira. I don't think Alex Pereira is probably going to make that same mistake he did against Izzy that he will against Jamal Hill, right? Alex Pereira has been pretty good at keeping distance pretty well, and when fighters engage in him and try to get into him, they end up getting knocked out. If you look at Izzy, the first fight, if you look at Yuri Procházka, if you look at Sean Strickland, the fighters that are just walking to Alex Pereira, getting in front of him and trying to throw something, they get knocked out. I think if you're Jamal Hill, you have to threaten the grappling. You want to play at distance a little bit, but you're going to have to rush in, get the legs. You're going to have to grapple with him. You're going to have to make it a dirty fight. Don't stay in too close to Alex Pereira. You can't be a single target. You have to move around if you want to beat him. But I don't think he'll be able to do that. I think he's coming back way too soon off that Achilles injury. I think Alex Pereira, he leg kicks the shit out of Jamal Hill the entire time. I think if Jamal Hill does try and get into the clinch moments, he has opportunity there to, take down Alex Pereira. But Alex Pereira, this is light heavyweight. His takedown defense has gotten better. He's gotten better as a fighter. His grappling is good. And I think Alex Pereira knocks out Jamal Hill. I don't think Jamal Hill's striking is going to be able to beat Alex Pereira. Jamal Hill is heavy on that front foot, and I think that is a big no-no when you're fighting someone like Alex Pereira who can just calf kick you and then piece you up when your head is pretty low with the left hook. So I'm picking Alex Pereira to knock out Jamal Hill probably within 3 rounds. I think if Jamal Hill gets finished early, I think a lot of it has to do with that injury. And I think that is really why I'm picking Jamal Hill to get beat by Alex Pereira. I think he's coming back way too soon off that injury, and I don't think he'll be able to really have an answer for Alex Pereira. But those are my picks and predictions for UFC 300. I'm super excited for this fight. I'm super excited for this card. I will be making individual videos on each fight eventually. I might make one on Charles and Arman, and then one on Aljamain Sterling, Calvin Kattar, all those fights. So be sure to stay tuned. If you enjoy this content, be sure to like, comment who you think will win. Comment if you think I'm an idiot, if I'm wrong, I don't know what I'm talking about. What do you know about MMA? You don't know nothing. All that good stuff. And subscribe. It truly helps out. We're trying to build this community on Double Move MMA. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video.